Now, the team category was added to the Hall of Fame in 1998. There are 22 teams currently honored in the Hall. And what the team category does, it honors a team over a single season or event, such as a tournament, an Olympics, a World Championship, or over a designated time period. So over a span of, for instance, this evening, 2 years, could be a span of 3 or 4 years. Over that time period that the team has demonstrated domination and greatness over a designated time period by the nominator. The Brooklyn Redmond team of 1985 to 1991, which included undefeated seasons in 1987, 88, and 89, was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2006. And you might ask yourself, how the hell did they get so good? Well, just as a junior team requires a solid minor program behind it to achieve domination, a major team needs a similar feeder system to achieve greatness. As we shall see, tonight's inductee provided a large part of that system. In 1983, the Whitby Warriors were a middle-of-the-pack OLA Junior A squad, finishing in third place in the major junior standings with a 14-7 record. The team exploded the following year, though, finishing the regular season with a 22-2 record, barely nipping defending Minto Cup champion Peterborough for the league crown. They led the league both offensively with 421 goals and defensively with 199 goals against, and also dominated both the league's top 10 scorers and all-star teams. The Warriors placed 5 players in the top scorers list, led by Joe Nieuwendyke's 83-goal, 143-point performance, and future Hall of Famer John Fusco's 137-point outing, and placed 5 players on the league's all-star teams. Goalie Ken Passfield joined Nieuwendyke on the first team, while Fusco was joined by forwards Dale Kernahan and Kevin Van Sickle on the second team. Whitby's dominance continued in the playoffs as they swept Elora in the OLA semifinals before defeating Peterborough by a 4-1 margin in the final. It was on to their first Minto Cup since 1980, and they continued their postseason domination by defeating host New Westminster 16-8 in the one-game final to capture the cup. Nieuwendyke led all scorers with 23 points and captured this Jim McConaughey medal as the series MVP. The following year, 1985, provided a much more competitive regular season. Whitby again prevailed with a 19-5 record, but Peterborough at 18-6, St. Catharines at 17-7, and Brampton at 16-8 were close on their heels. The individual records weren't quite as overpowering, with only Barry Kent and Ross Tabor cracking the top 10 scores. But the first All-Star team was a Whitby showpiece, with Passfield and Nieuwendyke returning to the team, joined by Bill Callan. As much as the regular season was very competitive, the playoffs were a one-team show, with Whitby, led by Nieuwendyke's 59-point performance, sweeping both Brampton in the semifinals and Peterborough in the finals to move on to their second consecutive Minto Cup. This time the Warriors hosted the series, facing the BC champion Victoria Esquimalt Legion in a best-of-7 series. The series seesawed back and forth, but the Warriors, again led by Joe Nieuwendyke and his series-leading 18-goal, 22-point totals, prevailed, winning the deciding 7th game 16-8 for a 4-3 series victory and a second consecutive Minto Cup title. Of course, teammates Joe Nieuwendyke and Gary Roberts went on to have stellar NHL careers, but many of the members of this outstanding team went on to help the Brooklyn Dynasty to greatness. So it's very fitting that they join their senior cousins in the Hall of Fame tonight, the 1984 and 85 Minto Cup champion Whitby Warriors. To accept on behalf of the Warriors, I'd like to ask team captains Kevin Van Sickle, John Fusco, and Gary Crawford to come forward. Guys?
I was hoping Johnny would speak. I went to his induction and I'd never heard him say more than 3 sentences in a row. And he stood up here and gave us best speech I ever heard without a piece of paper. So I had to write things down because if I don't, I might get off track. And this is a very dignified event. And I got to be very careful. I got to stick to the stick to the words in front of me here. I'd like to thank everyone who came out for Bill Callan's induction into the Hall of Fame. Billy got the letter, but he didn't know we all got a letter. This ring has my name on it, Bill, too, like we all got it. Yeah. Thank you to the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame and the whole Hall of Fame team for this wonderful professional event. Thank you for the very special recognition, for your dedication to the history of the game. Thank you for selecting the 1984 and 85 Whitby Warriors and allowing us to gather here together for this honor. We who've accomplished a lot together in the past and very little since. We who were told that we were never allowed to assemble together in the same building, in the same venue, or in the same place for any reason or any circumstances whatsoever. I have to say, it's really nice coming back to New West again, this time, knowing that we'll be going home with the same number of teeth that we had when we got here. No broken fingers and no involuntary nose jobs. I remember one time we were out here and it was always tough, and we had a tough series, and we beat lucky enough to beat New West in the end. We went back to the airport, and we were at the airport in the boarding area, and one guy's in a wheelchair, and a couple guys got crutches, and one guy's got a cast, and there's a couple broken fingers and some black eyes, and they're all sitting and this guy's looking over at this group. And he finally wanders over and he says, "What the hell happened to you guys?" And Gary Crawford says, "We won." Well, there's statistical team and individual numbers that are impressive for the 84 and 85 team. I don't want to really mention individuals because it is a team honor, and it's a very, very special team that we're talking about. And I know a lot of people played for good teams, but this group was really unique. Looking at them now, you wouldn't know, that we were in the Hall of Fame. Maybe the Molson Canadian Hall of Fame would be more appropriate. On the flight over, I had a glance over, and Billy Callan was having a nap using his own neck as a pillow. Billy Passfield and Fusco, they're on the plane, and they leaned the same way at the same time, and the plane started banking towards Seattle. But I thank my teammates for allowing me to make the acceptance speech, and I'm honored that you chose me, and it was a very risky thing to do. I appreciate it. But I'm actually the right person to speak about this group because I'm one of the very few guys that came from outside of the Whitby group. I came from Rexdale as a 16-year-old and joined them. I'd had my whole minor career in Rexdale, and a couple other guys did too, but you had to come from the outside to come and join this group to realize how unique this was. I mean, these guys, they'd already played sports together, every sport you can imagine. They'd played together for over 10 years by the time we were 16. And you realize what a tight group you were trying to crack here. And, while the other junior teams were starting to draft players from other towns and communities, and they were coming from all over and some from different parts of the country, these guys all lived on literally the same street. It was a bunch of guys that were best friends and great athletes. And one of the things I remember one time in the dressing room, Fusco, this was one of my first time in the dressing rooms, and I didn't really know everybody quite yet. They'd been beating the crap out of me for years, but I didn't know them that well. And I remember Fusco say, "Hey, Cement Head, you remember the midget hockey when your dad came in to tie your skates?" and I remember Peroni throwing a lacrosse stick and saying, "Hey, Wop, remember the time I threw a stick at you and hit you in the head just now?" and they laughed, and it was fun. But the strangest part of all that was that one guy just called another guy Wop, and the other guy just called him Cement Head, and they were smiling about it. So I knew these guys were tight. The team category for the Lacrosse Hall of Fame is an important category. Lacrosse is the ultimate team sport, I think. And if you were to ask all the others tonight that are in here individually, you know, it's very difficult. You have to be a very special athlete, a very special player to get here individually. But I'm pretty sure if you ask all of them, they'll say that they couldn't be here without their teammates. So it's a really big honor for this group who are really the best of friends as well as teammates. The accomplishment, I think, that we share here being, having been protecting each other's back for so many years, and to be here today after 35 years is really special, and we're really enjoying this weekend together again. The whole time, I never once saw anybody in all the years with these guys one argument, not one disagreement, not one complaint. Everybody always got along, and it was really a special place to be. You got to the dressing room early and you stayed late because it was just that much fun, and nobody worked harder. The only complaint I ever heard was, again, Bill Callan. He was kind of whining about, why am I not on the first line, eh, what? Well, you know, we said, shut up. Anyway. You'll get there eventually, Bill, and he did. He got there in big time. So I'm going to keep it a little short. I'm going to skip a few pages because there's a lot to go through, and I really didn't expect to be first. That was a surprise, and I'm not even finished my dessert, so I got to get back there. But you know, hard work. Everybody knows what hard work is. I just never seen a group of guys work this hard in my life. I came from a team whose practices were the warm-up before a game, right? That was these guys worked, and we had to go 5 or 6 nights a week sometimes, and it almost bordered on abuse. It was that difficult. I remember the first time after an hour into 2, I thought the practice was an hour old. It was water break. I thought it was over. And no, it was only halfway, and we were going for another hour. And then it all ended. We had great coaching staff, and it all ended at the end of the practice. I, again, thought it was over for the second time. And, you know, having experienced a near-death experience out there, Peter Vipon, our coach, would say, okay, are we going to do the sprints? Or are we going to run the town? And then, you know, Elmer would say, let's do both. So we'd do both. And then the goalies would join us, and the goalies ran every drill, and the goalies ran with us, and it was everybody working hard. And speaking of toughness, how tough it was there, it was a tough group of guys, and everybody had each other's back. I wasn't a fighter. I mean, when I got there, I think I'd had 3 fights, and I think my sister won all 3 of them. And I was in my 4th game, and just getting used to all this, and there was a bit of a scuffle. And one of my obnoxious 140-pound teammates, the biggest instigator of all time, Todd Tran, was in the corner, and he was battling for a ball. And there was a tough guy with him, and they were kind of going at it. And so I was kind of hovering around waiting for a ball to pop out and not really getting that involved. And the sticks were going and hacking away, and all of a sudden an invisible stick came up and caught this big, tough guy right in the chin. And I kind of grabbed a guy beside me because it looked like this guy was going to kill Todd. And the head, you know, his head jabbed back. He looks Todd straight in the eye, and then Todd said something very, very unflattering about his intelligence, and the guy loses it, and he's, you know, going after Todd like he's going to kill him. But Todd tucks his head in, and he's fine, and the guy's wailing away on Todd, and I can hear Todd chuckling. He's actually laughing and chirping the guy, and he's just trying to kill him, and Todd's having a blast. He thinks it's the best thing that's ever happened. So I don't do anything. I'm just kind of holding my guy, and Todd's fine. But it must have looked bad, because when I got to the bench, Elmer Tran took me aside, and
What the hell do you think you're doing? What do you think this is? Some kind of walk in the park? You get there and you take care of your players. You do what you gotta be done. You get stuck in, get your nose in there. This is not a dance, for crying out loud. If you wanna go to a waltz, go to a dance.
And he's ripping into me, and I was shocked. I was like, and I was disappointed in myself. I didn't know, and I couldn't explain that Todd was fine. He was chirping him on the way to the penalty box. He was still good. I'm so worked up, and I've let Elmer down, and I've let my new teammates down, and and I'm anxious, and so the next shift, I accidentally bump into somebody, I just grab him, and I just started giving it to him. And the guy, poor guy, still doesn't know what happened to this day, this guy. And this poor guy, he's like, what did I do? And I'm like, absolutely nothing. And I get out of the penalty box 5 minutes later, and I get back to the bench, and Omar's like, that's what I'm talking about. I'm going to skip the toilet paper truck thing and the Peroni, and I'm going to skip Watt breaking 5 sticks in one lacrosse game. And, you know, it was a good group. I remember and I'm almost done, I promise. One kind of story that sums it all up for these guys. It was a tough, it's 22-2 in the season, great season, but it's not over yet. And you didn't get a lot of, from the coaches or from each other, you didn't get a lot of praise. You hadn't won anything yet. And we'd had a couple tough years. We thought we should have done better. And this year it was all clicking together and everybody was working hard, and we put a lot of years into this, and it was, some of us, our last junior year. And this was going to be it. So there wasn't a lot of praise for winning regular season games. But we got into the playoffs and we finally beat Peterborough. And we knew, okay, that's step one. And we were in Brampton and we were up 2-0. And we were heading into Brampton, and Brampton's a hard place to win no matter how good you are. And we played really well, but we were down a couple goals late in the game. We came back, and we won by a couple goals, and we pulled off game 3, and that was a big hurdle. Like you go down, you're up 2-0, you get 2-1 in Brampton. You never know what's going to happen. So we pulled it off. We're in the dressing room. We're feeling pretty good about, we're icing bruises and we're patting each other on the back and we're feeling pretty good about it. And Pete Vipon walks in, and he's got a scowl on his face, and he comes in and he yells at Bill Callan to shut up, and everybody goes silent. And he looks just around the room. He goes, "Not good enough. Not good and bleeping enough, gentlemen." And he walks out. And that was like a wake-up call, like this isn't over. And then I'll skip to the end of the story. We're at the Mann Cup, and it was one of the best games I'd ever witnessed. And I was in it. And it was a 16-8 win against New Westminster, who had also gone something like 22-2 that year. It was a wonderful game, and we didn't drop a ball, we didn't miss a pass, and the goalies were fantastic. And we won 16-8, and it was a great win, and we felt pretty good. And Peter Vipon walked in, and he says, "That was good enough," and we won the Minnow Cup. So that was that story. And the fact that so many of us showed up here is a testament to commitment and the camaraderie our teams had then, and the pride that we still have today. And we sincerely appreciate this honor, and we're thrilled to be a part of lacrosse history. And more importantly, it reunites some teammates that truly enjoyed being together in the dressing room, where the best memories and the best stories shall remain. Thank you. Thank you.
Just thinking that Molson's Hall of Fame, man, that would be a big Hall of Fame, wouldn't it? Damn.